Okay, so I've been doing stuff, trying to figure stuff out. Still not sure if I'm actually doing better or not. Sometimes you think, I'm doing better, I'm doing something good here, like I'm improving and stuff. But then you ask yourself, what am I improving towards? Is there even a goal? I mean, I'm still gonna be looking out of the same eyes in pretty much the same place, living the same pretty much mediocre life, and I don't see any other possibilities. I'm just not interested in any of the stuff that people just seem to gush over. Like, people want a nice car, a nice house. It's like, to me, that's just absurdity. Like, you want a nicer piece of metal so you can flex on people. These cars aren't even better. They're not actually better cars. They just look nice, and people wanna pretend like there's someone important with these, or they want a nicer house, a nicer concrete box so they can sleep in. And when people pass by their house, they see how nice it is and they feel bad about themselves because they didn't work hard like you, because they're not superior like you, they're not amazing like you. It's like people have these desires for these all these material things and my lifestyle, and oh my god, I want to get all these da da da. Like, it's all, to me, it's all absurdity. Like, I'm even done with that. I just don't have any of these desires. Like, I don't know where. I mean, it's not surprising at all that people want these things. I've heard it all my life, but when people say like, "What's your dream? What do you want to do?" Like, stuff like that, I just don't even get it. Like, there's no dream. Like, what are you gonna do? Like, most people's lives, like, it's not going anywhere. Even these like supposedly amazing, like one of a kind, like people that people look up to, the people that they put on the thumbnails of these like motivational videos, like Elon Musk and Joe Rogan and David Goggins and whoever, all these guys, Donald Trump or whatever. I don't know who they're putting on the videos. They're not. They don't really put him on the video. But these kinds of guys that are like apparently so amazing, like, I don't know what they're like. What are they really doing? What is their life really like? I feel like they're just like alone somewhere and they're just like making phone calls and filling out papers, and or I mean they're not even interesting at all. They just suck and they kind of got lucky. Like, they're just yappers. That's usually the case. Like, just guys who are strangely confident for no reason, and yap, and people are inspired apparently because it sounds vaguely good, and it blows up on social media because of TikTok, and people just you know need this kind of stuff. Like, I'm not impressed at all. I don't think their lives is are amazing. I don't think, like, I'm not really so much envious of what they're doing. It just, I mean, it's good and all, like money and all this stuff and success, like, it's great and you'd like to have it, but to me it's not really. I'm not impressed. I think it's good. It's safety. It's comfort. It's you can avoid pain and all in your life, but I'm not really like I'm not really like awed by it. People are so impressed by this stuff. They just talk about it all day. They think it's like some miracle. Like, it gives them hope back into humanity. And I'm just when I see that, I just see that as such like naivete. Like, why would you even, like, these people are all mostly charlatans, or they just got lucky on something, or they're not even that good, or what they're doing, you're completely misunderstanding what they're doing, or even if they're doing something good and all, it's not even really important for us. Like, it's not really something that we realistically could ever do or could even desire to do, because they've made so many sacrifices in their life, or they're such abnormal people who kind of are obsessed with something to a pathological degree, and they happened to be kind of successful at it, so it doesn't look so pathological. They can get away with it. But most people like that, most people who just obsess over something, they never get success. They actually get a lot of problems in their life because they're just kind of delusional people. And speaking about delusions, I mean, society now, the common way of thinking in the world, and like at least in the Western world, kind of, but really the world, I feel like, is like this really delusional, narcissistic way of thinking. Like this, I can't do anything. There's no limits. Like hard work. Like all of these ideas. I don't know if it's an American idea, if it came from America, and America just spread it around the world with media and social media and stuff, and just going around and on the world. But it seems like this is like almost ubiquitous. Like everyone talks like this, everyone believes this. If you go against this idea, even though this idea is completely false, if you go against it, you get punished completely. People think you're a terrible guy, and to a degree, I understand, because if you're even smart a little bit, if you're a little bit conscious of socially, you would probably not say that even if you thought it was true, because you know people don't like it. So if you say that, you're probably someone who just is kind of not well socially adjusted. So I get why people are turned off, but I think we really like brought ourselves into a bizarre position. Like I don't think this is the way that people think about things normally. Like I think this is really a cultural thing that America created with like capitalism and industrialization and all these this like American dream stuff. Like you need to work hard and you can get the house, you can get the family, you can get the success. You just need to work hard, be honest, follow the rules, be patriotic. All these values, all these feel good moments, all these like good media pieces, like these movies that have good endings, and all these like these speeches that are about freedom and rights, and we need to believe in the American blah blah blah. All this kind of mindset, that is completely delusional. That life is somehow about that. All you need to do in life is be wanted enough and be nice enough and follow the rules and just show up and do the work, and everything's gonna go fine. It's completely false, and I think nobody. I don't know if people really believe it. Sadly, I think some people actually genuinely believe it, even though it's obviously false. I mean, you live in a world where every day people just get completely destroyed unfairly, and people get punished for doing good things, people get rewarded for doing terrible things. It's not just at all, and it's more than ever now. It's completely unjust. Things have just devolved into chaos, and when I see these types of ideas, these types of like feel good, like hard work ideas, I just cringe, because it's like so delusional. Like people just can't get away from it. It's like for some reason people can't accept that life is like unfair, and that like maybe we can't like become billionaires and stuff like that. Like people have difficulty accepting these things, that our lives are largely limited, that you know we don't have so many opportunities, we only can do so much with what we have. But people just don't want to believe in that. They just want to have all this false hope. But it's really dangerous. There's a lot of danger to it. Like when people believe in these delusional dreams, they just like they get scammed, they get lied to, they get exploited. They just waste their time on just dead end things that are never going to work out, because they just have these unbelievable dreams and these aspirations. And this is why like all these kids nowadays like want to be YouTubers and stuff and become famous and all this crap, because largely because like there's like this idea that you need to be successful at all costs, and it's terrible to be a normal person, and you can totally become successful easily. Just follow these steps, and all these scams, and all these parents who don't take care of their children, who let them watch scammers, and who let them watch all this brain rotting content that just turns them into idiots. Like there's so many problems that come together to create like what we have right now. But I just think it's kind of just sad. It's like a sad thing. And this isn't even it. This kind of mindset, these kinds of human tendencies to just believe in delusions, this kind of culture that's being created of like this glorification of working hard and following rules, which is basically completely beneficial to like the richest people. Really, it's not beneficial to normal people at all. It's beneficial to people who own businesses, to business owners who can actually make people work for them. Of course, if you're a business owner, if you're a rich guy who has people working for you, of course you want them to believe that hard work is important, that following the rules are is important, that they can totally make it, that everyone can have a good life, that being normal is not good enough, that you really need to like b- you climb the corporate ladder and the hierarchy and stuff like that. Of course you want these people to believe these things because that's going to be beneficial to you. It's going to keep them competing with each other, it's going to keep them working for you and producing as much as possible. It's like a carrot that you're dangling in front of their faces to get them to keep marching onwards. It's like it's a complete scam. And this is probably why this kind of culture has been created anyway, because the richest people, the people who control the industries and media and stuff, they probably were just naturally very, they had a liking to these kinds of ideas because they saw them as beneficial, they saw them as good because they were good to them. So they naturally just like propagated them and supported them in many many ways. And naturally in society, the force of the richest and most powerful people, their ideas, what they like, is going to dominate everybody else. And after decades and decades of this kind of stuff in the United States, I think this is how we get this kind of culture. This is how we get this hard work, like delusional, and it's not normal. Like we genuinely think it's normal because it's the only thing we know. But I'm pretty like we don't have to be like this. I don't think people were like this in the past. People were much more honest. People were okay with not being extravagant and just kind of being normal and accepting the harsh realities of life. And people were okay, but now like people are mad at you. Like people really think that being normal is not good enough. Like I'm not saying it's great, but I don't think anything is really great. Like it's all trash, it's all pretty bad. But being normal is actually not that different from being like rich and stuff, at least in terms of living experience. Like it's if you're like 100K, it depends on the city and the place and everything, but in 100K it's a lot of money. But if you make a good salary like that, which is it's a high salary, of course, but and I'm not sure if that's completely normal, but if you make in these kinds of ranges of salaries, like you're probably kind of maxed out on your life quality, most likely, at least in terms of monetary success. You're probably already maxed out. Like if you make 100K, I know a lot of people don't make that, but which sucks and stuff. But in terms of your personal like financial success, you're probably already maxed out with 100K. So all these delusions that you need to make millions, like that it's not enough. You don't exactly need 100K. Like in some situation, you can get away with less and stuff. But the gain becomes marginal the more money you have. And just we just have now this extreme focus on money and getting rich, and as if it was gonna save you or anything. And we just insult normal people, and we shouldn't, because we are normal people. Literal society is composed of like 90% normal people, quote unquote, right? But we keep insulting them in the culture, which is kind of bizarre, right? Like it's us, it's very almost everybody, but they keep getting insulted in the culture. People keep pretending like it's terrible. People just glorify the worst things. And I mean, there's nothing to really do about it. It's kind of just the way things are. It's the way society has ended up being, and there's not really much to say, and it's not going to solve itself. It's kind of just random permutations of the society, and it's kind of is what it is. But I just think it's kind of funny when people are just so delusional, and they have like these weird aspirations. They just can't accept that that life is not easy. It sucks. Life is really trash, and people just have this dream of escaping their bad life and becoming rich and being some kind of great thing or whatever, as if that even existed. I don't think that exists at all. I think life is just a pretty trash experience, and that's kind of just it, and that's just the human condition, pretty much. And this kind of stuff, this kind of capitalistic stuff. I know it's kind of cringe to talk about capitalism and stuff, but I'm just talking about the economy. I'm just talking about generally, very generally, about like how the economy has ended up being. I'm not necessarily talking about like the economic system specifically and like criticizing it in detail. But like I've seen some businesses, like I was walking down the streets, and I've seen like all these businesses. So many of them just open up and close down in a matter of a month or 2 months, or it's very short. It's a very short lifespan that they have, all these businesses. And I really wonder why. I think it's because uh, the rent, they can't even pay rent. I think they can't even pay rent, these places, so they just end up closing down. which is kind of weird because they look like they're like luxury kind of places. They're expensive, but I guess the rent is just so high, and stuff sucks so bad that these businesses can't survive. And that's really, at the beginning I had kind of a first perspective. I'm like, these businesses, like, they must be making a lot of money and stuff. They look nice. Like, it's these, these kinds of businesses. It's like, the kind of luxury looking, very aesthetically pleasing, kind of hipster, millennial, like, these businesses that are kind of cringe, that are more about like lifestyle and aesthetics and feeling like you're doing something more than actually buying a useful thing. These kinds of businesses, and they do look nice, of course. I know why people like them. I mean, it's not for me, but I get why people kind of see them as interesting or something. But you know I think they do make actually a lot of money, which is surprising. But I guess they can't pay rent still because the prices are so high, and people maybe don't buy as much as before, because the economy is so bad. The economy is so bad that I think a lot of people can't actually are not buying as much things anymore, or are only buying bare necessities. And I think that also explains a lot of these businesses closing down, because that's really a nation becoming impoverished. It's really a nation becoming impoverished. We're seeing that happening before our eyes. We're seeing businesses close down. We're seeing the downgrading of the businesses from kind of more leisure type products to more fundamental products that we need to just survive. We're seeing kind of infrastructure be built in a certain way. You know we're seeing places be filled up. These health centers and stuff, and they're really taking down these businesses. They're taking down a lot of the kind of luxuries of life that we could afford in the past because of economic success, but now they're kind of closing down. They're just removing these places, and I think that's really like it's like a sign of impoverishment. When a nation becomes richer and there's a lot of success after industrialization and all that stuff, you would expect a bunch of buildings and businesses and factories to start building up and things to get nicer and more sophisticated and more detailed, more personalized. But that's the opposite of what's happening now. Buildings are becoming more generic. They're becoming more utility oriented. More stores that are more for enjoyment type products are getting downgraded. And I'm not necessarily complaining about these facts, because I actually think maybe getting more pragmatic, maybe getting more to the basics might be healthy to people in the long run. Maybe if things become harder, they can end up being better later on, because removing a lot of kind of luxury type, more leisure, like nicer looking places, it might sound bad because it's a sign of economic decline, but it's also good in a way, because a lot of these stores shouldn't exist. People, it also enables a lot of bad tendencies in people, like a lot of bad behaviors, I think, like, because I always wonder, like, who buys stuff from these stores. They seem to have people. Sometimes they have people, not always. They seem to be able to exist for a certain amount of time. I mean, they get creative for a reason. Someone thinks that there's a market there, and I just wonder, like, who buys stuff from these places, because I never do. Like, I go to these malls, I go to these stores, like, I look around, and I just don't understand who are all these people that are buying stuff. Like, what are they even buying? There's nothing to buy. Like, I don't know what they're even buying. Like, I think people are just doing this as a hobby. Maybe they're just enjoying it. Maybe they're maybe I just don't understand. But to me, it's very surprising that people are constantly consuming stuff from all these stores. I mean, where are they even getting the money from? I guess maybe they're not even getting the money anymore because these stores are closing down, but they still exist, of course, to a degree. So I really don't understand it. I don't know how these stores can exist. It's so much useless stuff, like weird like bakery shops with like luxury bread. Like, I rarely ever see anybody in that store. I don't know how they still exist. And it's once again these very aesthetically pleasing kind of cringe stores that are about an experience and about aesthetics and feeling like you're doing something. These like hipster millennial type of stores that I'm talking about, like, they're just kind of cringe because they're clearly about fulfilling some like desire for status, and it's just kind of it's kind of cringe. But yeah, I just don't understand how they exist. And maybe people need to maybe things getting a little bit harsher might help people just realize what actually matters in life. But I think that's an idealistic view of it too. Like, I don't think people really are gonna see that. I think people are just gonna keep acting how they act. I'm not so naive to think that People are gonna be that long-term observant and are gonna make different decisions. People are people. Like they just act how they act. So I don't really know. I don't really know what's gonna happen. I don't know. And of course, this doesn't help socially. I mean, socially, it's a train wreck. Of course, you already know it's exactly how it's always been. Just a complete shit show. Like nobody's doing anything. People are gonna like we're going down. I'm telling you, we're gonna go down as a society, like completely. Like people have given up on life, on existence, and maybe it was always gonna happen, but I don't think people realize what's happened. Like we haven't taken most of the damage yet. I think most of the damage is coming because there's not been like, and I'm not necessarily saying there's gonna be like a huge glorious collapse and stuff, but things are gonna get worse, and they've already started getting significantly worse. But things are just slowly, it's gonna creep up on us. We're not even gonna realize it. The living standard is gonna get lower and lower and lower, just like it has been getting lower and lower, and just society is gonna suck. The world is gonna suck because we've done things wrong. Because we're a difficult species. We're kind of a fucking we're kind of a we're really like a fallen creature. I mean, I don't know if we can ever do anything better, or if there is even anything better in existence, or if this is just reality. But yeah, there's something sad about that. I wonder what people are gonna do. I mean, at this point, you can't even think about relationships and friendships and all these things. Like you're barely surviving. Like everyone is on the edge. Everyone is nobody. Everybody's life is just so bad. There's not even any, and people are divided more than ever, and people are hate each other, and like forget about socialization and all these relationships. Like it looks like a wasteland. It looks like a wasteland. And good luck having any solid relationship. It's literally impossible now. I mean, I think marriage and children and long-term relationships and all that stuff, I think that's literally in the minority now. The norm is to be single and childless and stuff. It's genuinely the norm, and I think that's not been the case since very very long. Like I don't think there's that's ever been the case. Actually, I'm not sure. But I don't know. It seems like people don't care about that. I mean, it seems like doesn't really get talked about. I think there's reasons for that, but I'm not gonna get into it. But I guess that is what it is. Yeah.